One of the most eagerly awaited video games finally goes on sale.
Preparing to rewrite retail history.
Video game is expected to have bigger first-day revenues than any movie has ever had an opening day at the box office.
Biggest retail launch in entertainment
history.
history.
Dozens of grown men and probably about 3 women have crawled out of their parents' basements tonight to be first in line to buy the new video game Halo 2.
Man, you smell that? Ah, the good old days. Since the early 2000s, video games have taken some turns, some good, some bad. But for the most part, video games hold some special memories. From midnight releases to speaking with your friends at school about the game the following day, counting the hours to play the game you waited so long for. I miss these days, and unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to see them again. There is a reason for me saying this, as we're about to dive into what happened to gaming. Let's start with one of our first topics. One of the most common features that show corporate greed, corporate compassion for the gaming industry. Yes, our dear old friend microtransactions, a feature that we love so much in the gaming community. Microtransactions have been implemented throughout most of our favorite titles in today's games. And at first we were like, oh cool, I can get this cool cosmetic for $5. What a sweet deal. However, time goes on and we start to see the cool little cosmetic that was $5 is now a cool new gun that gives you a leg up on the competition for only $45. For something that started as an innocent way for gaming companies to say it helps with the future development of the game and fund the game for future content to come. However, I would say it's gotten pretty bad whenever it comes to microtransactions now.
This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
Most games back in the day, you'd buy the game and that was it, nothing more. Sometimes the game would have DLC, but DLC back then was very different compared to now. DLC in the early to mid 2000s was very reasonable for what you would get. But regardless of what I think about microtransactions, I think they're here to stay. However, I am saying this as a victim of purchasing microtransactions. Please help me. For the love of God, please help me. Yes, I'm a hypocrite, but I have my vices like everyone else. I've bought microtransactions before. At first, it's not that bad, but then it progressively gets worse until you look at your bank account and there it is. Reality check. You spent $100 on that brand new waifu skin and your wife has a lot of questions for you, or your girlfriend, whichever or. Even if you have one of those or if you don't, regardless, it's an awkward situation. And I think that we, the gamers, have accepted microtransactions to be just part of gaming. The consumer ultimately holds the power in how they'd like to spend their money, but when the industry is purposely placing the coolest rewards that people can get and that would love to grind for as microtransactions, it really rips the joy away with instant gratification, which is really unfortunate. And I think there is harm in this feature, and it doesn't matter even if it's purely cosmetic based microtransactions. Companies are now taking it the extra mile and placing features that are game changing, like better stats on certain weapons. And I think in general, no game should have microtransactions that literally give you an advantage over other players just because you have money to spend. The reason why I place microtransactions is because I've seen such a large decline in quality of games since they became more prevalent in the industry. I feel like it's almost expected in every title that we play nowadays to have microtransactions of some sort. And it works because we let it work, sadly. And that's my thoughts on microtransactions. Going on to development time, and what I mean by development time for a lot of these games, they just want to push out the game to the public whenever it's truly not ready to be released yet. And I feel like in most cases, this has been something that we've all had to deal with in recent years. I don't feel the hype of a big AAA title dropping like I used to. And maybe it's because I'm older now, but I just don't feel the excitement because most of the time we're left disappointed in something that was supposed to shock the industry. But then we soon realized we would be shocked at how gaming studios have the audacity to shove games that are sometimes unplayable even in our face and making all the hype that we have with our friends feel like a hollow shell of itself. I mean, look at Cyberpunk 2077 on its release date, filled with glitches and bugs all over the place. It left a bitter taste. Even though the devs mostly fixed everything that was wrong on its release date, now a few years later, the damage is already still done. It's hard for people to go back to something that they had a bad experience with in the first place. This also goes for Dying Light 2, being one of the best zombie game titles to ever hit the market. It was supposed to have so much hype around it. It felt extremely unfinished, and the game was missing so many features that that it took 2 years to add features that we deserved on release for about 7 years of development time and an E3 broken promise back in 2018, where the game looked completely different from what we actually received. It has really taken the community through quite the roller coaster. The gist of it is that many gaming companies today have a mindset of put it out there and we will fix the issues later, and some don't even fix it at all. It really shows us that we are just the consumers to these companies and they do not care about us. Shoot, you could treat me like dirt, and if you're putting out quality titles that are extremely fun to play, I will take that abuse. However, this isn't the case. It's in fact the exact opposite. Accessibility and cultural shifts. I know, I put two big topics together, but these two complement each other when you hear what I'm about to say. For years now, we have had everything at our fingertips, all in one location, and everything in the world becomes more accessible, and so does everything that we consume. Video games have been more accessible than they ever have been. With the early to mid 2000s being the transition periods, we finally reached a point where we don't have those beautiful midnight releases that made us fall in love with the video games we truly enjoy. Unfortunately, these days are gone, and you could just click a button on the screen and that's all you get. That's all the hype that you get. That's all you're gonna receive, and everything is instantly gratifying to us, making us numb to what we were once passionate about as a hobby. Video games are no longer a game anymore. They are a job in itself. You need to use that specific weapon or that specific build, and if you don't, you will be at an extreme disadvantage and your teammates will call you a soy boy. I've actually heard this. Shoot, for some people, it actually is their job. Their job is to make content playing games, which is cool, but it has its drawbacks, as now people take games too seriously and they need to be the best as fast as possible to receive any gratification. This is the cultural shift that I was talking about. This has caused rifts in the gaming community. In some ways, it's been positive, giving people the opportunity to pursue a passion as a career, but in most cases, ruining the adventure of what makes the game special. The exploration, the content, what you're finding, what works, what doesn't, for ourselves. I miss this so much. These are some of my favorite memories in gaming. It has become a full-blown sprint to the finish line. As for accessibility, YouTube was a thing in the early to mid 2000s, but I think the culture has changed. If there's a tutorial on a newly released game, everyone is in a rat race to post a video, as this means they'll get all the initial views. So now so many people don't even get a chance to experience the game like they used to, just by figuring it out. Maybe a week later, a guide might be uploaded. It's a speed race now to reach the finish line and then just throw the game away, giving us extremely short-term gratification. And I know, you could just not watch the video if you don't want to be spoiled. Well, that's easy to say, but whenever most games are multiplayer-based games now, it makes it almost nearly impossible to have fun when you're not conforming to the way the community is. And most people watch these videos, so it's hard to not feel left behind. Sadly, this is what gaming has become, and I really do hope that it changes. I don't want to be a doomer, but I don't see this happening, as there's too much money surrounding the gaming industry now, and everybody wants a piece of the pie. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Now it's time for you to tell me yours. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna go catch my flight out of here to go to Japan and snag me one of those waifu pillows. Wish me luck, and I'll see you guys on the next one.